Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very well known and respected surgeon who is now focusing more on health and wellness from New Delhi, India, Dr. Sidharth Sahni. Siddharth,
Morning.
welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Good morning.
Thank you.
Lovely to be on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sani is a health advisor and a wellness expert. He's a distinguished breast surgeon and a certified health and wellness advisor. He has also served on several prestigious boards and in several of the top hospitals around the world. So, Siddharth, while we're going to talk about health advisory and lifestyle transformation, a few questions for you personally to start with.
Sure.
What inspired you to become a surgeon and specialize in breast surgery?
So the two are not related.
Hmm.
I was actually the most reluctant doctor that you will ever find.
Hmm.
I never wanted to be in the profession in the first place. I had two or three things that I wanted to do in life, one of which was actually becoming an actor
Oh,
uh,
wow.
or a professional cricketer. But my eyes gave way when I was invited after having been with Delhi under 15. I got myopia, which is short-sightedness,
Mhm.
so couldn't spot the ball. And then the parents, and in those days, if you in the late 1980s, there's nobody really as batsman who's
Correct.
even when you went for camps, if you had
Ah,
glasses on, they'd shove you on the side. It was so lots of factors, anyways. And God had and he said, okay, you want these two, so I've got a wonderful sense of humor. I'll give you the spotlight. I'll make you a surgeon. So,
mhm.
I was, and then even when I was in medical college, I had applied for my MBA at various colleges in the US, as well as the Royal Alfred in Sydney
Mhm.
and in the University of New South Wales. And I came across in my final year the short textbook of surgery by Love and Bailey.
Mhm.
And I read it, and I'm not joking, in 1.5 nights. I couldn't put it down.
Hmm.
This is way beyond before Netflix and the series and all
Yeah.
where you get addicted and you have to keep. And I just fell in love with surgery.
Hmm.
That love affair still continues to some extent, and that's why I became a surgeon because that was the only way I was going to stay in the profession.
Hmm.
And my girlfriend, then my wife now, very practical woman. Thank God, at least one of us is.
Hmm.
Said, you're in it. You might as well make the best of it now. You can't change that.
Hmm.
So that's why a surgeon. Why a breast surgeon? Um, one of my, I mean, I was lucky to train with, but in particular, three people in my life that have shaped my career. One of them, Mike Higgs, my dad's age, was probably the best general surgeon I've ever seen in my life. And he shaped my career because he came home for a meal when I was finishing my tenure with him and applying for higher surgical training. And he and my wife sat and had a conversation. And I wanted to actually, at that time, become either a liver transplant surgeon or something like that, or cancer of the esophagus, which is the food pipe. And he sat with her and they went through what that would involve and entail in our marriage. We'd just got married recently. And they both decided, and he said, I keep telling him to become he'd been after me to become a breast surgeon. And I kept fobbing him off because I said, no, that's not good. Uh, and it was also a question of I was in the UK at a time where breast surgery was essentially an NHS practice. It wasn't that much of a private practice unless you happened to be in London.
Hmm.
And you were guaranteed to get great training if you applied for breast because not a lot of the locals were applying for that. So that
Hmm.
was also an in into the system. And I was running his breast clinics for the whole year, which was one of the selling points to me. So I don't let a lot of people run my breast clinics. I'm
Hmm.
very, protective about them. And you're one of the few people I have let run. So it happened. And I was lucky enough to then go on to the Edinburgh Breast Unit, which was started by a great surgeon, Professor Forrest.
Hmm.
And it was the Forrest Report in 91 that changed breast practice across Europe,
Hmm.
principally, and the world. And, I trained with some of the best people. And And then it was really on the basis of that that my application to the European Institute of Oncology in Milan, under the guidance of Professor Umberto Veronesi, who is really the godfather of modern day breast surgery. He's the one who invented the procedure of breast conservation, axillary conservation. I mean, countless numbers of surgery that
Yeah,
I had the chance to work with basis of that. So yeah, you think you want to do X,
yeah,
and then you end up doing Z. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
it's been my
Very
story.
well said. No, and what a fascinating journey. But when I was reading about you, I was also fascinated to learn that you trained in Edinburgh and Milan. How did these two centers shape your approach to surgical oncology and patient care? What was special about these two places?
As I mentioned to you right at the beginning, my approach to patient care was founded right at the beginning of my nascent years of training. Uh, there are three people, Tony Cook, Mike Higgs, and Veronese, who
Mm,
made me what I am. And they taught me two things. Number one, no ego. Number two, follow, learn, don't use your brain.
mm,
And they taught me that if you ever get on your CV that you're a brave surgeon, you're dead.
mm,
So you have to be a safe surgeon. The three things that they teach you in the UK are safety, or they used to teach us at that time: safety, safety, safety. That's it.
mm.
Be safe. You won't be sorry. Uh, just different cultures, different practices, working. And Ashutosh, as you will understand, working with the best when you are playing at a level where, I mean, if you're batting in a partnership with Virat Kohli
Yeah,
today, you will learn 100 things that you would have never learned on your own
correct.
just by his advice and just
Yeah.
by looking at it. So by following the best, you learn best practices. And I was privileged
Mm,
to be in that position, and I think that that really is what made me
mm.
the surgeon that I was.
Very interesting. And yet, when you moved back to India and then were a surgeon, you built some of the leading breast care units. What were some challenges? And then what was the motivation to move out from a traditional surgical career into what you're doing now?
Okay, so when I came to India, I was told कि if I may say this in Hindi for a minute,
Yeah.
कि भूखा मरेगा और भी तो सर्जरी करनी सीखी है और भी कर ले.
Okay.
And it's astounding. In
That sounds
2000,
that sounds like a very typical, I'm also a Dilli wala, very Dilli wala statement.
and this is 2000, circa 2006 when I come back from
Mm,
Milan,
mm,
finally to Delhi. And I shifted because my wife's an architect, and she belongs to a house which is the oldest architecture company in this country.
mhm,
And I thought it was very unfair that she would have to give up practice and shift to the UK. We didn't, nobody could have, I mean, our generation did not envisage
mm,
the technological boom that was just around the corner, which would have
mm,
allowed her to still stay there at practice. But in hindsight, no regrets,
mm,
absolutely none, zero.
mm,
I've experienced the best of both worlds, and I'm here now, so it's fantastic. But uh, it was tough to start with. But in 2006, breast cancer was, as a cause of death, somewhere in the 200s in India. Today, it's in the top three. Okay, when I was back, it was 1 in 38 women or something who got breast cancer in India. Today, it is 1 in 9
my
in
goodness.
metros.
Mm,
It is climbing for a variety of reasons. And funnily enough, most of them are under our control, but we don't listen. We're not prepared to accept that. And yeah, it's the growth of my practice was not really great news for the nation because it just meant that you had women across all. I mean, in England, it was very simple. We used to get
mm,
a clinic list prepared for us by the secretaries, and we'd know where the problems were based on age. So as you got from junior to senior, you started seeing the older women. As you would, when you were more junior, you'd be given the younger ones
yeah.
because they didn't have any real issues in terms of cancer.
Mm,
But in India, because of the pyramidal structure that we have in our population, I mean, the youngest I've treated is 17,
Wow.
and the oldest is 92.
Incredible.
It's been, I've
Mm.
seen, I mean, just the fact that you learn on the job, tuberculosis of the breast
Yeah.
or atypical mycobacterial infection of the breast is something that was non-existent in the West. So we had no
Mm.
exposure to it.
Mm.
But in India, that was one of my big learning curves as a doctor in India. Just that and training myself to deal with
Mm.
patients like that. Few and far between, fortunately, but they exist.
Mm.
And unless your eyes are open, it's very simple. In medicine, if your mind doesn't know it, your eyes won't see it.
Mm.
Other than, if your eyes don't see it, your mind won't register. No, no, no. Your mind has to know. It's only then that your eyes will pick it up.
Mm.
So it's been interesting. It's been a challenge, but I've had again in India, I've had people who supported me. I mean, I can't thank and God bless her, the support and the love of my wife. She's always been behind me like an anchor, and she's just kept me focused and on the ground. And even when I was addressing this shift, it happened last year when uh, it's been on the anvil for a while. And one of my mentors, who's London-based oncologist, international repute, he's a super brand himself. And somebody I'd like you to talk to in the future as a podcast, because he is going to come to India at the end, somewhere in the middle of the year.
Mm.
He and I've been wondering what to do in India to get his best
Mm.
expertise here. And we decided, and suddenly it just sort of clicked. He called me January 23, where he told me he was doing this. It's taken a while for the shift to happen, but we are going to soft launch on the 15th of May. So
Wow.
that might be an opportunity where we're looking at, you know, we've always been reactive as doctors. You
Mm.
have a problem, you come to me, I then deal with it.
Yeah.
Our principal goal is to
Mm.
see how can we, and most of stuff, about 85% of stuff that you go to doctors for can actually be prevented
All right.
and, dealt with, or even if not prevented, entirely dealt with on an outpatient basis. So we've now decided to focus on that aspect of life and get people enrolled.
Fantastic.
He's
That's
a,
amazing. Uh, I've often seen this with a lot of doctors, and you seem to be one of the few who have pivoted because people have said modern medicine has always talked about cure, not talked about prevention. And you seem to have pivoted to prevention. But tell me, and let's talk about health advisory, lifestyle transformation, and preventive care. What are some of the pillars of a sustainable lifestyle, in your own opinion?
so I mean, it's very simple. It's so simple that people laugh
Hmm.
when I talk to them about it. So have you ever thought about the oil that you're cooking your food in? No,
I haven't, but yeah, my wife keeps looking at it
no.
daily.
So
Yeah.
all right. So there are only six oils that are good for your body.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask me the first thought, when did I start pivoting?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I used to teach my boys science
Mm-hmm.
when they were in school,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I was teaching the elder one chemistry, and it was carbon, and you have the various types of carbons, the alkanes, alkenes,
Yeah.
alkynes, and
Mm-hmm.
what is a low blah blah low melting point, what is saturated versus unsaturated fats, and suddenly there's this whole column of great praise if you look at it purely scientifically for saturated
Mm-hmm.
hydrocarbons, and you look at the unsaturated and you feel scared. And then there's a question: is ghee better for you
Mm-hmm.
or refined vegetable oil,
Right.
which has PUFAs in it?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer, according to CBSE, is not ghee;
Mm-hmm. But oil.
it's PUFAs.
Correct.
And I said, this is scientifically, this is the wrong answer. And
Correct.
in any case, we then he said, Dad, let me just learn what's the right answer for the exam. I'm not going to. And I actually at that time to also share something interesting with you. I had developed out of the blue in 2016 allergies that were already threatened because they came on my hands.
Mm.
Okay, I was in a desperate situation. I was already at that point looking for something else to do because I didn't know whether I'd be able to continue as a surgeon if my hands were compromised. So I went and started doing a deep dive into how this could be prevented, how allergies could be prevented.
Mm.
And I realized that we're eating, by eating in all these vegetable oils, you're actually putting a poison into your body that is finishing you across all healthcare dimensions. Okay, it leads to a heart attack that happens at 55 didn't begin at 55. It begins in your 20s, right? A stroke that happens in your 40s begins in your teens.
Mm.
So I completely switched the oils. I did this whole thing on nutrition, and I realized that ghee, butter. So the four oils I use at home, which have kept us touch wood healthy for the last 8-10 years, is ghee. Because everybody's asking me what are the oils? Ghee, butter, extra virgin olive oil, and here is the this thing of it. People think extra virgin olive oil is only good for dressing,
Yeah.
salad. Uh, Having had the pleasure of working in Milan closely with Italians, I can tell you no respectable Italian household, forget the income levels,
Okay.
no respectable Italian household will cook their food in anything except for extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil and ghee are the two oils that are phenomenal. They have, very little oxidation that happens. You can take extra virgin to 200 degrees Celsius and it holds itself. So when people ask me कि जी हम पकौड़े बनाएंगे पूरी बनाएंगे किस में तलें ऑलिव ऑयल में तल लो यार and the taste of ghee and the taste of olive oil, it's so fascinating.
Correct.
They're natural facts. When you cook something in a natural fat, it not only tastes nicer, but it fills you up faster. So you don't feel hungry. Yes, it might not be as crispy, but I'll take less crispy on the outside for keeping my arteries less crispy. So it's that. I mean, you can prevent dementia by doing this, Alzheimer's, birth defects, autism. I mean, it's a whole spectrum of diseases, cancer.
Correct.
I mean, when you heat up a vegetable oil, it releases three chemicals that cause mutations to the DNA, that cause cancer, all manner of things. So when I look at I've got some very, very close friends of mine who have got children with special needs. And the way it happens is that oil that we've eaten, our generation in particular, has been fed from the sick. It was the greatest lie that Mr. Ansel Keys, who in 1961 was named Man of the Year for Times by the Time magazine. He introduced that fact and was encouraged by the vegetable oil industry and the fast food industry. And it's incredible that in 2015, the American Heart Association finally got the gumption to say, no, we were wrong. Sorry. I mean, margarine, if you look at it, is actually one molecule away from plastic. So if you like eating plastic, that's what you have. But so I did it more for myself initially and my family. And then I realized that this was the way to go. We're working against an industry. You founded a pharmacological company. We're working against an industry that is trillions of dollars that does not want us to prevent disease. It wants us to keep being ill. I mean, the fact that you've got a drug like statins, it's a classic corn to gold, transformation.
Correct.
We're not telling people how to raise their HDLs and keep their cholesterol profile. Everybody's getting lipid profiles done and chasing the triglycerides and the LDL and the VLDL. Hello, I mean, why do you want to finish your cholesterol in your body? Cholesterol is so good for you. Nature doesn't make anything that is bad.
Absolutely.
Okay, it only constructs things which are beneficial to
Correct.
us. So
Correct.
learn how to handle that, and that's
Absolutely.
dodge the bullets, dodge the right bullets. The
Mm.
second thing that is the complete poison for us is sugar, white sugar, not good,
Mm.
not palm sugar, not cane sugar, not the natural sugars,
Mm. But
but
refined sugar.
refined sugar.
Mm.
I mean, hell, it's in every processed food.
Mm.
It's in the today. If you look at, say, people used to say, what is the unhealthiest part earlier in, say, a Big Mac meal or a Burger King meal or a Nirula's, Big Boy Burger? They all named that poor patty,
Mm.
a meat patty. Today, it's the healthiest. Now, if you look at it dispassionately, it's the healthiest part of that meal. Everything else is laced with sugar, vegetable oil, and preservatives.
Correct.
So uh, you can, and the sad part is that um, being a foodie, which I still think I am, and
Mm.
my family largely is, we ended up um, before the pandemic ordering out at least 5 times a week.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm.
All that food, and I can. It's not just the small restaurants or
Mm.
this thing kitchens, the
Mm.
cloud kitchens, but you go to a 5 star or most restaurants,
Mm.
ask them what they're cooking their food in.
Mm.
It's all in vegetable oil. And the difference between cooking it in vegetable oil and animal fat or saturated fat was estimated in 2019 to be about 50 cents per plate more expensive. That's
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
It's not $5. It's not prohibitive. But
Mm.
you're already charging. You go to a 5 star restaurant, they're already charging per
Correct.
dish 1,500 rupees. Plus tax.
Yeah.
If you look at it olive,
Absolutely.
or if you cook it in, tallow or ghee or butter, you can add another 15 rupees onto that, 20 rupees
Absolutely.
onto that,
Yeah.
70 rupees onto that.
Mm.
But, and this generation that is coming after us, they're working in the corporate sector, doing all of that, unusually long hours.
Yeah.
They are eating out constantly and
Correct.
ordering in. And
Correct.
it's such a preventable thing, but no one's looking out for it. So, I mean, at least I've got, and it's not just India.
Correct.
My younger one is studying in New York. He's in second year, and I've drilled it into my boys. So he was so upset. He called up my wife one day and said, "Mom, I don't want to cook at home because exams and things, but I have to because of all the eateries around me. There's only one that
Mm.
uses olive oil
Mm.
to cook. The rest of them all use vegetable oils,
Fine, Donal. Yeah.
and it's
Correct.
horrifying.
Correct.
You see that, and sugar. You know, sugar is just, and the two of them together, vegetable oil and sugar,
Yeah.
are
Lethal.
they
But
are we're committing suicide on a daily
absolutely
basis and we don't realize it.
correct.
And it's not just us, what you do to yourself, but you are then endangering the future generations to come.
Mm.
And the rise of Alzheimer's and dementia. Look at what Robert Kennedy Jr. is
Mm.
saying
Mm.
in the current government.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's hit the as a health person. I can tell you, he's hit the right note.
Mm.
Pushback that he's getting from this massive industries, obviously they're
Mm.
looking at their profits.
Yeah.
If you go back to cancer, and if you go back to the rise of the fast food industry in the
Mm.
US,
Mm.
extrapolate the graphs to 10, and same in India, and extrapolate the graphs 10 to 15 years later, they're parallel lines.
Mm. That's
Okay.
true.
There has to be some, you know, cognizance of what these people are doing.
Absolutely. But you've spoken to me and told me about the importance of the four good oils or fats to cooking. You've told me about the threats of sugar, and yet we are all confronted with these incredibly fad diets and
Oh,
so-called wellness trends. I'd love
yeah.
to get your perspective on these diets and trends because many, many years ago, someone told me diet has the word die in it. and death has the word eat in it. So I'd love to get your perspective on how do you talk to your clients with evidence-based practices?
So none of these diets has any scientifically published paper.
Right.
Okay, so whether you have the keto diet or whether you have X or Y, please understand you have three primary foods in nature. You have proteins, you have fats,
Yeah.
you have carbs.
Correct.
Right? Our body needs all three.
Hmm.
What we have to do is
Hmm.
not go on a fad diet,
Yeah.
but find the right and the correct medium of all these foods to be able to take into our system. The more you refine the substance that you're taking,
Hmm.
the more it loses its nutritional capability for you.
Yeah.
For example, when people ask me, "Can I have fruit juice?"
Hmm.
I said, "Well, the only fruit juice that is really enjoyable is wine.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the others are all are all empty calories.
Correct.
Please eat the fruit
Hmm.
because at least you'll get the fiber from that."
Right.
And people go on all these fruit and salad diets. You're only taking in sugar.
Hmm.
You're not taking in the protein. You're not taking in the fat. So how are you going to lose weight on that diet? So don't fad diets are fad diets because they worked for one person in a group and then it got
Yeah.
to change a lifestyle, Ashutosh, is the hardest thing in the world.
Right.
To give somebody a pill
Hmm.
to manage a condition they have is so simple.
Yeah.
No, causes of breast cancer, very simple. Obesity, huge. Today, it used to be hard to tell a woman that, listen, you need to lose weight because that central. Why do we all like people who have flat stomachs? Why does when Tom Cruise takes off his t-shirt or Matthew McConaughey or Hrithik Roshan, why
Hmm.
do women ogle? It's not just. It's a very primitive center in our
Correct.
brain that tells us this person is healthy.
Hmm.
Okay, so with that central fat, I'm not talking about except sumo wrestlers in
Hmm.
Japan.
Hmm.
It is not. I mean, looks are subjective, but it
Hmm.
is the flatness of the tummy is essential for you as a person
Hmm.
because it tells you that you're going to have very little issues. There's no insulin resistance.
Hmm.
You could finish 50% of the world's diabetes by doing that.
Correct.
Okay, which is why there is a lot of traction for the GLP-1 inhibitors like Ozempic and Mounjaro and things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
People are taking them for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
One of the people that I'm collaborating with
Hmm.
in England, Professor John Deanfield, has just recently, 2 weeks ago, published the SOUL trial, where he's used the same drugs in properly monitored dosages, not to reduce fat, but to reduce your cardiovascular risk. So if I
Hmm.
told you these same drugs, given correctly, reduce the risk of stroke by 40%,
Hmm.
reduce the risk of heart attack at 2 years by 25%, and 5 years by 50%, it
Hmm.
puts a completely different spin on the matter. That is the preventive strategy.
Hmm.
People are happier to get a CT angio done than get their proper cardiac evaluation done.
Correct.
It's lifestyle changes is the hardest thing that you can get someone to do. The
Hmm.
things that you need to worry about to be healthy are your diet. And I told you avoid vegetable oil food, and it's so fascinating that those same seeds,
Hmm.
the sunflower, the safflower, the chia, all of that, that are used to make these oils, if you have them as seeds,
Hmm. Yeah.
nice seeds, are fabulous.
Hmm.
They're great sources of HDL protein,
Hmm.
they're fabulous sources of omega 3 and omega
Hmm.
6 fatty acids, and they are cardioprotective. The
Hmm.
more you try and turn them into oil,
Hmm.
and the story started in the 50s in the US,
Yeah.
where the entire eastern starboard, which is the cotton growing belt of the world,
Yeah.
these seeds used to lie there and rot,
Hmm.
and they would turn into oil, which had a horrible smell to them.
Hmm.
So somebody got onto the idea, okay, let's make cotton oil,
Hmm.
sell it, and cook in it.
Yeah.
It's a cheap alternative.
Hmm.
That's where the vegetable oil story started. And it was propagated by this man, God bless his soul, Alison Keys.
Hmm.
Actually, the reason that he's also so famous, besides being Times Man of the Year, you've heard of the US Army rations called the K rations.
Mhm.
So the K word is keys.
I see. Okay.
Keep them. They're absolute rubbish,
Mhm.
full of, again, processed food.
Mhm.
And I don't know how he got the world's attention. And if I have to name a single most culpable human being for introducing diseases into our ecosystem that did not almost exist
Mhm.
60 years ago, it is that man and his
Mhm.
combination with the food industry.
Yeah.
So it's changing lifestyle is something. Sugar, avoid this stuff, and exercise.
Correct. I was just coming to that. So my
Exercise
question was, what are some everyday habits in addition to exercise that people tend to ignore?
everything. I mean, all these three. They'll have lots of tea, sugar in their tea. They'll
Coffee.
have, I'm gluten. I'm going gluten free. I'm going lactose
Yeah.
free. Well, and also the vegetable oil. I keep coming back to that. I'm sorry, it's a
No, no,
broken
but
record. These,
obviously it's
these
very important.
these oils, what they do to our gut, and the gut medically starts here and
Mhm.
ends at our back
Yeah.
passage. What they do to our gut is not even funny
Mhm.
because they terrorize the gut's lining. They
Mhm.
finish it. They finish your immunity. They enable the body to start attacking itself. So a lot of food allergies that have been precipitated in our and subsequent generations are as a result of the exposure to these oils. And
Mhm.
it's and saying, oh, I'm now lactose intolerant. Well, I was diagnosed being lactose and gluten intolerant
Mhm.
8 years ago. And I continued to till I found that no, I'm going to pivot and switch. The only good thing that happened in the pandemic
Mhm.
for us was that because nobody had to anywhere else to get stuff from, everybody was cooking at home and becoming great master
Yeah.
chefs.
Yeah.
Totally switched the way we ate. And
Mhm.
I find it actually made me healthier, my family healthier, and that's where we've stayed. We haven't moved. So, an exercise, anything that you can do. I mean, a walk is not an exercise. So, ideally, after 35, because the body starts going into 35, 40, 45, going into degenerative mode, it happens. And after 45, everyone starts losing muscle. So
Correct.
you've got to be in a gym or doing calisthenics against gravity, which is
Mhm.
why I know a lot of people who, Ashtang Yoga, for example,
Mhm.
is wow. It's if you can do that, you're sorted
Yeah.
because you're 9.8, your body weight into 9.8 is what is the weight training you're doing, and
Mhm.
it's fabulous. So exercise is a must.
Mhm.
You've got to make muscle mass because otherwise it's not going to happen. And
Mhm.
by losing muscle mass, every muscle is attached onto a bone,
Mhm.
and every muscle has its own blood supply. So
Mhm.
when you keep your muscle mass um, strengthened, you increase the blood supply to it.
Mhm.
You increase the blood, and that blood supply feeds the bone, and it carries the nutrients into the bone. It doesn't let the bone leach out
Mhm.
the wonderful calcium and the other materials that it needs.
Yeah.
So you want to stay healthy, it's as simple as that.
Correct.
It is as simple as that. Of
Mhm.
course, tobacco is in any form horrid.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Moving on, I have time for a few more questions. We've been chatting for quite a while, but the conversation is so much with so much knowledge and information that you're sharing with our viewers and listeners. Um, you said that you're launching a platform on the 15th of May, and I wanted to ask you, how do you see digital platforms and telehealth contributing to the future of preventive wellness?
So, very
Tell
good
me
question.
about your platform as well.
My platform is it will have an electronic component to it
Mhm.
where we are doing electronic health records for all our members. It's a membership circle where we are invited to join, and it's at various tiers. Besides that, we will have modules. Some of the modules that we have is obesity prevention, cardiovascular, cancer prevention, So you can choose to be a member and get the modules or just the modules itself.
Yeah.
There's a cost to everything.
Mm.
And there is also access then to the best of medical facilities, both locally as well as internationally.
Yeah.
So we've created this phenomenal medical advisory board internationally. It's UK, Europe, US, Brazil, Australia. It spans the globe.
Mm.
So, as a member, you have access to that online as well as in person.
Mm.
And it's all about dodging the bullets, all about keeping you healthy, keeping you safe, so that you've got a business that you do. And what happens to you if a major health event happens to the person who's controlling it? The story vanishes in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So my job is to make sure it's like a health management service. You go to all the great wealth management people, you've got your assets,
Yeah.
you give it to them, they
Mm.
manage it for you, whether it's an index fund or whether it's other funds, you're very happy. You're at least insured at 12 to 15% growth rate
Right.
per annum,
Mm.
right? Without having to use your own brains, and your capital keeps growing.
Mm.
What's your biggest asset? It's your health. If you don't know what to manage or what tests to do, when to do it, how to change your lifestyle, what medication do you really need to go on? I was speaking to somebody else and he said, I'm on 9 medications. I don't even know if I said, I don't even know if you need them.
Mm.
He said, I said, but when we get hold of you,
Mm.
buddy, we're going to cut down your drinking, we're going to stop your smoking, and we'll change your meds. And he said, I can't wait for that to happen.
Mm.
Uh, People have actually said that to me. No names, of
Mhm.
course.
Absolutely.
This thing, but that's the level that we're at. I mean, if I asked you today, do you know what to expect in the next 5 years in your health? Your
Mm.
answer will be
No.
no clue,
Correct.
because
Correct.
it hasn't been managed.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep people out of hospitals. We're going to keep people, we're going to send people to the doctors when they really need to go. But otherwise, you stay away from, it's not a very it's not very, very popular with pharma and hospital industry.
But the fact that it's coming from a doctor with so much experience, and you said with your panel, the
Yeah.
credibility will be very, very high.
I mean, my two partners on this are, I mean, literally, one of them has, you know, was a co-author for the French National Cancer Policy, and he's got the highest civilian award in France, given by François Mitterrand to him. The other one was still Rishi Sunak's time, the National Wellness Czar of
Mm.
the United Kingdom, and the lead author in the Soul Trial paper which I mentioned to you earlier.
Mm.
So we've got people of that level across the world, and you're talking to people who have credibility 100 times over. You're not just talking to somebody who's
Absolutely.
disgruntled with this profession.
I don't know when you are launching your registration, but you have two pre-registrations from me and my wife already.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. 15th is the soft launch.
Yeah,
I shall come and meet you guys and explain it in great detail.
absolutely.
And 1st August
Is the launch.
is the launch.
Okay.
We've got our partners coming down end of September for a roadshow in Delhi and in Mumbai to start with,
Yeah.
and then at least 3 or 4 times a year. And
Mhm.
I think they're people that you would really want on your podcast.
Absolutely. We'll plan all that. But I've got time for two more questions for you. You are deeply involved in awareness and education. How do you make medical knowledge accessible to the public? And I see you do a lot of that, including through this podcast.
But you've got to be able to break it down.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we can have another thing about this on cancer.
Yeah.
Which I've always done or tried to do to my patients is you hear the word cancer. Everybody is so scared about it. But do you know what cancer is? Okay, they are cells in your body that have become, through changes, have become so smart that they've beaten nature.
Correct.
Nature's law is everything that is born has to die.
Hmm.
These cells don't die, they just keep proliferating. And the reason they go out, for example, why does breast cancer? Everybody knows the word metastasis now because Google and what the disease is. Why do these things metastasize? Well, it's the reason why people emigrate.
Yeah.
Look for better living conditions. There's too much competition locally.
Very simply put, but that's a fact, right?
So that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
getting it's actually as simple as that. I don't need to explain the biochemistry to you. I don't need to explain the drug interaction to you.
Correct.
My job, I mentioned about vegetable oils. Now I can go online and say, oh, these are the chemicals, this is the mutation.
Yeah.
Who's going to understand it or have the time to hear that? My job, and all the years I've received training, is to access the information, break it down in my own head, and then simplify it so that I can talk to a 2-year-old child and he or she can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's it's always been my approach to anything in life. And I think that's how we will continue to do it in the future.
Fascinating. And my last question for you, what would you say is a message you would like to give to all our viewers and listeners who want to start taking control of their health?
Well, I would say take control of your life because we only have one life. I mean, um, uh, some of us believe in reincarnation, but heaven knows if it happens or not. But three things: take control of your lifestyle. It's in your hand. It's nobody else's hands.
Yeah.
Move to eating the right oil. And today, it's a simple thing. Teach your children the same thing. Teach them how to cook in that, because when they go anywhere, whether they're in India or outside, they should be able to dictate their own nutrition.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Avoid anything with sugar or processed food. Right? And the thirdly is exercise. Nobody, it's a simple thing. I learned this, it's a lovely slide. One of my closest friends is a bariatric surgeon in New York. And I love this slide. It says, obesity doesn't run in families. Obesity happens because nobody runs in the family.
Brilliant. And on that note, Sidharth, I just want to say, when your three amazing lessons, take control of your life, eat the right oil, and teach your children to eat the right oil, and exercise. Thank you so much for this absolutely incredible conversation I've had with someone after a long time, which is so simple and yet filled with so much knowledge, what oils to take, proteins, fats, carbs are important, but, eat with moderation, exercise. And, I think everyone who will listen to our conversation, and there'll be thousands of people who will, I think there's so much takeaway from my conversation with you. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.